All right. Good morning. Thank you all for attending today. Kind of wanted to introduce our speaker to the next series or the next iteration of Building on Yesterday, Shaping Tomorrow. But we have none other than Ann DeFries with us today, the 2008 past national president. And because this is a kind of like a little Broward baby, we want to be able to point out that she also in 1998 was the North Broward president, which now is what Broward has become today. It was a culmination of different chapters that became one network. So wanted to kind of just point that out. But at the same time, wanted to give Ann the opportunity. We give her a warm welcome and give an opportunity to give an introduction about yourself.
Well, thank you, Lorianne. Oh, an introduction. They always say that a bio should be 30 seconds or less, so I'll keep it at that. I've been a realtor for 37 years in Broward County. I work at Century 21 Hanson Realty. Christine Hanson and I have been the very best of friends for over 20 years. We actually met at the local association when we were both in leadership there, so we have a long history together. I started back in Women's Council in 1997. That was when I was president of the North Broward Network. And by 2000, I was state president. So I had a pretty fast track there. By 2008 was national president. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And I've met some incredible people throughout the years that will be lifelong friends.
That's awesome, and I feel like that's what I continue to keep hearing over and over is just, you just build these lifelong friends, and it's kind of in the trenches, in within leadership that you really kind of just develop those bonds. So, as a past national president of the Women's Council of Realtors, what would you say were some of the major contributions you made to the organization during your tenure?
Um, this may surprise some people, but at the local network back in the mid 90s, I was a two-time member of Women's Council. I joined and then quit because I thought it was ridiculous, and then rejoined again because someone looked at me and said, well, if you don't like what's going on, get involved and make a difference. And to this day, I still say that to people, whether it be through association work or Women's Council. If you don't like what's going on, it's up to you to get involved and make a difference. And to me, my big thing was always the programming. And the reason I say that is because back in 1995, it chokes me to even say this, but we were offering programs on flower arranging, and I lost it when we had a program featuring a psychic. And that's when I quit. I said, I've got a little one at home. My time is very valuable away from my family, and I have no interest in this. It's not real estate related, and I'm out of here. So to me, it was always, always, always from the very beginning, and it went up through executive committee and me being national president. It's where the phrases of business resource programming started. And that was always my passion of, if you are expecting women or anyone to be part of a program on a monthly basis, you have to offer someone that is going to be income generating. That's always been my thing of, you can't ask anyone to be involved in something where it's not going to make them money. Why should we? I mean, how many places can I learn how to make a floral arrangement? I don't even want to know how to make a
Shocking.
floral arrangement. As the saying
Yeah.
goes, we have people for that.
Right.
So it was never an interest.
Right. No, I mean, and I feel like that's the truest definition of if there's something that maybe you're not aligned with, or you feel like can be possibly, there is possible movement or a level of change, then that's the perfect way to kind of segue into creating that. So, I mean, that's amazing.
And it's funny because I remember in executive committee having these discussions, and some gals, and I shouldn't say where they were from, but they were from California at the time, said, if we don't have plastic surgeons come in and talk to us, our members won't come.
Wow.
We've come a long way, baby. That's
Right.
all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and I love the raw and candid way that you're answering these, because it was true for the times, and now look how far we've come because of it. So that's incredible. So what were there any significant initiatives during your presidency that you felt were important? Any of which that you still believe had a lasting impact on the council? Like you already addressed, meaning, business, income generating, all of those, but anything else you want to tie off of that?
I think the only thing that probably would go along with that is at the time, anyone that has been involved with the council for many, many years will never forget the 2008 governing board meeting, where it was extremely divisive. It was very long, and it was all about changing the governance of Women's Council, which many of those changes today have been made, but it was not at the right time or the right place to do it. I realized at that point that you can never take the vote away from anyone. I don't care if that's at NAR, if you're trying to downsize the board there, which I was sat on that peg for 3 years. I just know for a fact you can't take anyone's vote away from them because they will never vote for it. So I had a lot of learning curves along the way also. But that was the other initiative that we thought was extremely important, was to pare down the size of the board to be more effective, to pare down the regionals, which we felt that would be far more effective. But it just wasn't the right place at the right time.
Oh, I love it. So how would you describe your personal leadership style, and how do you think maybe it differed from some of your predecessors?
Everyone's different, and it was so much fun to be on a line with women that were so different than I was. It taught me so much. At the local association, it's different. Yeah, it's different with Women's Council. Um, the president, as I was president-elect of National, was Judy Moses, who passed away a few years ago when a car hit her as she was showing property in Boston. And it was devastating to all of us because Judy was the little piece of dynamite. And anyone that knows anyone from Boston never had a shy thought. And I admired that in her and learned so much, as I have from every member I've ever met. I have never met a member in Women's Council that I didn't learn something from, whether it be from their business or from their leadership style, their personality, something. And so I think when you're serving with other women, if you sit back and actually want to enjoy your leadership journey, you can immensely just by leaning into those other women that you're working with that are so different from what you are.
I love it. It's so true. I always kind of say, like, the diversity of even a boardroom table, or, so some sort of, even like a nonprofit where you kind of sit in different capacities at the table. The magic happens when you have all these different opinions and different feelings and different ways of thinking, kind of come to fruition, and then be able to be expressed, and then you never know how that can just segue off and like parlay into like amazing stuff. So I can see where that really kind of all comes together.
Yeah.
So you touch a little bit on this, with the 2008 governing board meeting, but what types of challenges outside of that did you face during your presidency, and how did you address them?
That was a huge challenge that year. And um, I learned very quickly, and as I went on to become president of my local association after my national, or before my presidency, but my leadership journey, I did find that something to be very true. If you don't have the votes on something, you better know where you stand before you walk in the room. You can't spring ideas on people and expect them to vote on it. You can do all the footwork that you think is necessary by having, calls, and by having workshops, and by if people are not buying into the idea, don't even have the vote. It's not worth it to go through that, because I don't even know what else to say. It's just not worth it. Know where you stand before you walk into the room. And even with your own leadership team, you know, I can remember after that happened of going back into executive and saying, I'm going to ask each and every one of you, are you for this or against it? And only then did I find out that people were against it. They weren't talking against it, they weren't speaking against it. And I always assumed that people would do that, but they
Yeah.
don't. So you have to ask them point blank, are you for this? Are you going to be on the side of this, or are you going to work against it? You got to know where you are.
Yeah, that's great wisdom. And I think it kind of carries over into every area of life when you think about it, not just, within leadership, but just like personally and professionally.
Mhm.
What was the vision for the future of the council then? And if you've seen it played out today in terms of influencing current programs, policies, priorities?
Oh, absolutely. Um, One of the things that was really important to me also was to be involved in your community, which we advocate for now today more than ever. I mean, there was a time we didn't really do that. And we encourage women to become involved in their association and in NAR, whether it be the local, state, or national level. I was because I was also involved at my local association at the time, I didn't want people looking at me and telling me that I had to make a choice, because I wasn't going to make a choice. I could do both if that's what I chose to do. So that has evolved immensely over the past 20 years or 15 years or whatever, that we advocate for women to become involved in our communities and at the local, state, and national level. We're not one trick ponies here. We're women that can multitask. We've had families, we've had businesses. We know how to do 25 things in one day. Don't I mean, maybe men can do it, maybe they can't, so they don't understand it, try to push us down. But I really feel like, we have to encourage each other to do that and not to say to each other, well, you really need to pick a lane and decide which one you're going to be in. Because until you test waters, you don't know which lane you even want to be in.
So true. So true. So obviously part of the organization is mentorship or anything in leadership. So it does play a big role. So what impact do you believe your mentorship has had on the council's members, fostering growth and development over this time?
Well, they always say that past presidents need to get out of the way and they need to not be involved. And I think that they don't use them enough in mentorship. Um, that is my only role left. And I feel that it has been for years. I'm very involved and have been since the beginning of the NAR mentor mentee program at the Florida Realtors. I've been a mentor every year since that began. I love helping other women achieve their goals and their dreams, and I want a safe place for them to be able to ask questions where I'm not going to gossip about them or their questions, or if they call me and they're crying because someone looked at them the wrong way. We all need a safe place to land. And that's my role. I really feel that it is. And it's very important for all of us to have mentors that they can trust. I'm going to go to my grave with more stories that are never told than probably anyone because people know that they can trust me and that it's not going to go anywhere. But we all have to have those people. We have to have them in our lives. And I didn't have mentors. I grew up in a leadership world where women were fighting so badly just to have a position for themselves. They could not reach back and help anyone else because they couldn't even get what they needed or wanted for themselves. As sad as that is, I think now that I look back, that had to be the only reason, because they were really nice people.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that they would not have wanted to help if they could have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they were different times. So, you definitely have more of that trailblazing mentality from where, maybe someone even in like my capacity is now versus, kind of back then. So that's really important. And it kind of, I think that a lot of people, and especially that was the goal of this, was for new members, especially to kind of see past national leadership and be able to hear a lot of this stuff that they can, when they feel they're in a place and that they're not moving forward, or they feel stuck in their local network based on in certain capacities, or maybe they just, things are not playing out the way they should, or they feel that they could, but at the same time they're able to kind of hear from other people and kind of almost have like that olive branch, and hearing that things were very difficult then, but things are difficult now, but these things will work out and they will
And
work
I
them out, and there's help.
and I think the other item too, Lorianne, is that there's only going to be so many state presidents and there's only going to be so many national presidents. Maybe this isn't the lane for you. Maybe you are meant to do something else. And instead of running 2 or 3 times, accept the fact that it's not your lane, that you are meant to do something else in your community. To be on the planning and zoning board and to be the very best member that they have, or to be a city council person or a commissioner, or to be PTA president. It doesn't make any difference. They're all needed positions. So not everyone is going to get exactly what you need, but maybe there's a reason for that. I'm a firm believer that when one door closes, another is open somewhere, if you can be open enough to look for them.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. So could you talk a little bit about any of the advocacy campaigns that you spearheaded during your presidency? Was the goal achieved? Was it reached?
I had to laugh at that question because there was no such thing as advocacy at Women's Council in 2008. I don't even think that they brought the institutes and societies and councils into play until probably, I was trying to research the date, but I think it was probably 2015, 16. It's or 14. It's been very recently.
Yeah.
I became a President Circle member probably back in 2011. I was one of only a few people in Women's Council that understood that program or was even involved in national, and NAR. I had been invited to be a guest at President Circle by Bobby Nelson from California. And I'll never forget, we went to Puerto Rico and I had a wonderful experience there. And I came home, as is what should happen when you invite someone to President Circle, that they become a major investor and that they become a President Circle member. But back then, we didn't really know what that meant. And the minute that they started inviting the institute societies and councils to be part of that as major investors, I mean, we have the largest group now in Women's Council. And it is because there were those of us that believed in that program and believed in going and jumping over to NAR when our, leadership, we had done as much as we possibly could at Women's Council. There was another place for us, and it was at NAR. So we, the Gail Hartnetts and myself and others naturally, reached out on that program and said, yes, we're involved in this and we want to help bring it back. And again, the task was to ask, and we started asking local network members to become major investors and showing them the value of it and getting them more involved in our associations, which naturally led for them to become major investors at the time. So it was an evolution more than it was. I just think it's funny because it is so successful that everyone assumes it was there forever. And it really hasn't been that long that it's been part of Women's Council. So I think it's fabulous.
It is, and it's great to actually kind of have an idea that this stuff is more recent. We think it's been going on for years and years, and I love to be able to hear that this is something that kind of dispel the rumor, or dispel the kind of be able to really see that we're part of something that's more newer than something that's been around for a long time. But that's in I feel like in certain ways sometimes in that we were talking about how like sometimes certain things take a long time just to even get started, so the conversation may have been happening for quite a while, but then it wasn't actually put into a process
Well,
until.
a perfect example of that is your regionals.
Yeah.
We were discussing this in executive back in, 2006, 2007, 2008, trying to make it into more regionalized East, West, Central. I mean, we were drawing charts about that then, and it's just been in the last few years that that has become a reality. So a lot of the things, are not new. It's just that the time was right to change them.
Yeah. So you touched a little bit on this before about, in people's leadership, that leadership is not a straight journey, it kind of does have some ups and downs, and maybe sometimes it's right leader, right time type of thing as well. But what key lessons would you think current members could learn from both the successes and the setbacks that you've experienced?
I think if you have not experienced a setback in leadership, that you really haven't gone through leadership. Because if you want to take your toys and go home, that says more about you, that probably you should not have gotten that position. I really believe that. People watch how you lose an election more than they watch how you win it, and how you handle losing an election, or losing, out to someone else, or you don't get exactly the position that you think you're perfect for. I learned a long time ago, and I learned this at the association: right time, right person. And I believe that we are all put in a position of leadership at a time that we are supposed to be there, period. I stopped questioning it years ago, of why not me? No, it wasn't my time. There was either someone else that could bring more to the table, or a different skill set that was needed at the time. Because I know in my association journey, as it was with National Women's Council, I was there at a time that I was needed to be there. I am not the personality that's going to run crying from the stage. That isn't who I am. I'm strong. And I'll just take a second and tell you, I think, one of the funniest stories ever. My daughter, who was in college at the time that I was national president, was sitting in the audience in DC. And we got back to the room and she said, "Wow, Mom, they really came at you." She said, "In the sorority world, we have Robert's rules." And I said, "Well, we use those too." And she said, "But we have what we call motion to mute." And I said, "Motion to mute? What does that mean?" "Well, when someone says, 'I have a motion to mute,' it means they have to stop talking. I think you should have used that today." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I wish I could have, but no, honey, I'm glad that you get away with that, but that is not in Robert's rules."
That's awesome. I could not agree more, actually, sometimes. So looking back over your journey from the local involvement to national leadership, what key lessons would you say current members could possibly learn from your experiences?
I'm going to say be in the moment. I think with many people, they're looking out, what is my next move? Who do I need to talk to do this, or this? Do your job that you currently were elected to do. And if you do that really well, you don't have to worry about what's ahead for you. You just don't. It's going to naturally be there for you. But I think that sometimes many members lose sight of the fact they were given a job to do, and it runs from January to December. And that is the expectation, that you will be the treasurer, or you will be the membership director, you will be the president-elect, and this is the guideline, and this is the job responsibilities that you have during that time frame. And you are expected to do those things. That's what you were elected to do. Stay in your lane, do your job, to the very best that you can possibly do. And you don't need to worry about all those other things. You just don't. They will come to you. Stop looking ahead 2 years or 5 years of, well, this is, I guess I've sat in so many nominating committees and people will walk in and they'll say, well, where do you see yourself in 2 years? And this is on the local level. And they will say, I see myself as national president in 2 years. Well, that's looked at in one of two ways. Either you're extremely narcissistic or you're clueless. I mean,
Right.
it's one or the other. That you shouldn't be looking that far ahead. Look at what you're doing today, do the very best job that you can do.
I love it. So, what would you say would be some of like the key skills that you learned in the council that really helped you with much of your leadership with the Realtor Association?
Don't know that it's just with the realtors or, it's in your personal life also.
Mhm.
The art of negotiation, of compromise. Oh my gosh. I'm sure my husband loved it, once I started going through leadership. I think that I was probably a much better spouse because I learned the art of compromise and listening. And, these are skill sets that maybe we don't start out with. None of us are born with listening skills. Um, how to be empathetic and how to apologize. I can remember saying to one member at one time, if you could find it in your heart to apologize to her, I think that she will retain her membership. She's hurt and she's disappointed in us. And I remember that member looking at me saying, I can't do that. And I never forgot that. And
Mhm.
it was like, when her name would come up again, it would be like, should we give her this position? I, it was very difficult for me to say, yes, I think we need to move her forward because I knew that she was not empathetic. And you have to be in a leadership role. You never know what's going on in someone's life. And we don't talk about, a spouse that is ill. We don't talk about our business going down the drain. These are things that everyone experiences at some point in their lifetime, and it affects our leadership. So instead of saying they didn't do this, this, or this, maybe we need to go to them and say, what is going on in your life that has changed? Because something has. I know it has. You've always been right there. You've always done the tasks that have been asked of you, and it's changed. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Just talk to me.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, something's going to come out that something in their life has changed, which brings you back to being empathetic again. And if you can't be empathetic, your leadership journey, I think, is going to be pretty short
Yeah.
because it's going to be hard for you to work around other people.
And it's so true too, because I do think that, especially in this day and age with social media, which almost can be a blessing and a curse sometimes, because I really think that it makes people feel sometimes that, everyone's highlight reel is their 24/7. And that is not the case. So we actually have, like you were saying before, that when there are times of struggle or challenge, that we actually have more in common with other people than we think we do, but then we kind of almost look in a way to them as if, well, their life's perfect, so I'm not going to bring it up. So I
Right.
think kind of
I
that.
will appear flawed, and I don't want to appear flawed. So I'm going to keep that to myself because I'm perfect. Well, none of us are perfect. We're all far from it. And by building on the strengths of each other, it can help you get through a lot more things.
Yeah, I love it. So any sage, we're coming to the end now. So in your if you want to give any sort of like little, kind of like closing tidbit, funny story, but any sage words of wisdom that if I knew then what I know now type of moments would you love to share with members?
Probably enjoy the journey. Don't take everything so seriously. Have fun. I have taken the attitude, especially in the past 10 years, of fun, fun, or no deal. If I can't have fun doing it, I'm probably not going to accept it, because even though it's very serious, all the different things that we do, and it's life changing for our members out there, in many cases, the decisions that we make, you still have to have fun doing it. Because if you don't enjoy it, then why are you giving of your time? And why are you taking away from your business and your family if you can't have some personal enjoyment out of what you're doing? Um, I always usually end something like this with, don't be the last to leave the party, because I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. Many times, you'll walk by the bar at, midnight at a convention, and the same people are sitting there, and they probably shouldn't be sitting there.
Mhm.
Um, Look around at a reception and just make sure you're not the last one to leave. You shouldn't be the last one to leave.
Yeah.
You have other things to do and other commitments to make. Just enjoy it. Stop taking everything so seriously. We can still get the work done and have fun.
I love it. Well, past national president Ann DeFries, thank you so much. We truly appreciate this opportunity to get to know you better. And I actually, have the ability to see Ann more often than most, because she is well, in my county, but at the same time part of my realtor association. So I truly appreciate this time, and I've gotten to learn more about you, even through this journey, and what a kind of a wicked personality, and kind of sense of humor you have, which I truly appreciate and love. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Lori Ann.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.